impact forces are harmful when running, but when they are produced in greater than normal amounts, your chances of injury can certainly increase. In fact, impact severity when running can be strongly influenced by foot strike pattern, whereby heel strike running tends to be most consistently associated with producing more all-around impact levels as compared with forefoot strike running. One such impact force variable in heel strike running that is a very big risk factor for injury is called the peak brake force, which is produced at heel strike. Peak brake force means there is a heavy burst and collisional impact at heel strike. Why is this force produced in the first place at landing in heel strike running? It's produced because most often the farther back that you land towards the back of the foot or the heel usually encourages overreaching with the foot and the leg, which usually accompanies a fully unbent or hyperextended knee joint. This ends up creating a long overstride angle where there's a longer distance separation between the mass of the body, which is the hips, and initial foot strike position. It's this elongated distance that causes the body to come to a crashing halt for a prolonged period of time and results in a burst in collisional impact that also produces high compressive loading as well. To that point, Runner's World featured a study, which is linked down below this video in the description box, of which the researchers reconfirmed that runners with the highest peak braking force were almost 8 times likely to get injured than runners with the lowest peak braking force. The researchers mentioned why a high peak braking force when running is so injurious is because bone withstands forces better if the forces are occurring in the vertical direction, but not when forces occur in the horizontal direction, of which braking force in the horizontal direction has a strong damaging shearing effect on most of the joints and the soft tissue structures in the lower leg, of which these areas aren't built to withstand the shear force from increased braking. The study, however, focused on heel strike and midfoot strike runners and suggested that one way to reduce the brake force in these particular foot strike types is by increasing step rate or cadence, which is the number of steps that you take per minute, and the cadence range most proven to do the most good for injury prevention and performance improvements was found to be between 170 to 200 steps per minute. And what makes a higher cadence so effective in limiting high brake stress is that it improves the foot's positioning at landing and that it enables the foot to land closer to under the ankle, under the knee, and closer to under the hips being the center of mass. In this condition, the peak brake force is less intensive and shorter in duration, but it's still higher as compared with forefoot strike running, because in forefoot strike running, landing forefoot first literally eliminates the high peak brake force at landing. It completely removes the burst and collisional impact altogether that is seen when you land behind the arch, high up on the heel, like in a heel strike landing when running. But when you land ahead of the arch on the balls of the foot, not too high up on the toes, but actually a much flatter foot placement results in a greater smoothness in foot placement. There's a much smoother motion of the foot with the ground that also produces less jarring and less jolt forces, in addition to completely eliminating the high peak brake force. Because the farther that you land away from your heel, closer to the front of your foot, like a forefoot strike landing, there is a smaller inclination angle of the foot relative to the ground upon touchdown. This means the forefoot doesn't lift up like it does in a heel strike landing. Rather, it either points up less or is more parallel with the ground or points slightly down towards the ground upon touchdown. This reduces the swing time in front of the body and naturally assembles the foot to land closer to under the ankle, under the knee, and closer to the hips, which means stride length reduces and step rate increases. All in all, it's the coupling of a smoother mechanical interaction of the foot with the ground while the foot lands closer to the mass of the body that results in the immediate removal of the peak brake force as compared with heel strike running and even midfoot strike running. In the study, the researchers said that heel strike and midfoot strike runners can reduce the injurious brake force by shortening stride length and increasing step rates. But to really maximize the benefits of running more injury-free, why not land in a way where there is no burst and collisional impact at all, like in forefoot strike running? Because there's a long line of research, which is also linked down below this video in the description box, showing that those who switched to forefoot strike running had the largest improvements in knee pain and compressive loading as compared with all other foot strike types. And that's mainly because of the complete elimination of the peak brake force, because key stride parameters engaged by landing with the forefoot strike when running, like I said, which are reduced forefoot inclination or reduced forefoot lifting upon and a touchdown, which helps give you better leg swing control by preventing overreaching of the foot, and a smoother placement of the foot with the ground may collectively have a greater influence on sustainably eliminating peak braking at landing rather than just reducing it by taking smaller, quicker steps while heel striking when running, because landing behind the arch on the heel and then the foot rolls heel to toe still produces a greater jarring force because of the larger foot inclination angle at landing causes the heel to pound into the ground, which is still going to produce a brake force peak. Also, the movement path of the foot when the foot rolls heel to toe results in a longer ground contact time duration of the foot, which is a determinant strongly associated with abnormal foot pronation on account of the longer the time the foot spends on the ground when running, the more time that the foot has to be shifted into extreme abnormal overstrained positions rather than landing in front of the arch on the forefoot, which naturally results in a larger surface area to contact the ground, of which impact is also able to spread over a larger area of the foot, and the movement path of the foot results in lesser ground contact time. So the interaction of the foot with the ground is more brief in forefoot strike running. Because of that, there may be less time for the foot to be pushed away from its neutral order, and thus there may be less opposing forces in general in forefoot strike running as compared with trying to heel strike more safely by taking quicker, shorter steps. So essentially, the biggest takeaway is that by impact standards, one of the best changes to your running form may be with forefoot striking, because it seems to do more to provide even better impact protection by completely eliminating the peak brake force and by being more of a natural facilitator of more controlled foot pronation or sturdier footstep stability. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to hit the thumbs up button as well as the subscribe button if you haven't already. We will stay more informed on forefoot strike running versus heel strike running, as well as more informed on the benefits of using barefoot running to help you run better in running shoes. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Have fun up there on the roads and trails. Bye for now.